Today on the Doctors Who podcast, we are covering Chapter 7, Salamander, from Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game. As Ender is finishing up dinner with Alai, they start heading back to their room when Ender gets a strange message that he has been transferred to Salamander Group. The army of Salamander and its commander, Bonzo Madrid, are not exactly what Ender has in mind for learning. Oh, Ender's got a hard time ahead of him. We'll cover this and more coming right up.
Welcome to the Doctors Who podcast. My name is Chris.
My name is Chip.
My name is Brian.
We are covering Chapter 7 of Ender's Game entitled Salamander, which is apparently not about an amphibian. So, why don't we jump in and check out Ender's new squad?
Yeah, so this one, the kind of epigraph that starts it with the two people talking, we realized that Ender won the game that couldn't be won. So, I don't know what that means exactly, other than I assume it's the giant strength game, and we'll maybe learn more. But so Ender's been promoted to the Salamander Army, and he meets.
Is it Army or is it Squad? Is
Squad?
it?
I thought it was Army.
You
I
might
thought
be
it said
right.
Army, but I can't remember.
I don't believe either of you. I'm just kidding. I do.
Yeah. But so anyway, so he goes. He before he does his transfer, he spends all his time playing the giant strength game, and then
Well, and he has a nice moment with Alai.
oh, that's true. So he has that final moment with Alai, where they not a final moment, but as bunkmates or whatever.
Yeah.
So they actually embrace, and I think Alai tells him salam, which I think I read is an Arabic word for peace. So basically, and Ender
Which is a weird
Ender
thing
doesn't
to
really-
wish somebody at battle school.
this is one of those things that I like how Card he shows us what's going on and doesn't tell us. So Ender's reaction after that happens, I think he realized it was a moment, but he didn't know really how to respond. So he kind of didn't do anything, if I remember right. But anyway, also I think going back to the new Salamander Army, so he meets Bonzo, I think is how they said to pronounce it in the thing, and he also meets Petra. So Petra actually kind of helps him and kind of figures out how to train him, and Bonzo basically just stay out of everything. Don't you're not really part of this. We didn't want you, and you just need to sit over there on the side and not do anything. So
Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to mention, I don't know why I thought of this when I was recapping this chapter, but as Ender and Alai were leaving the cafeteria, it was specifically noted that Ender never ate all of his food, and he didn't on this occasion either. And I don't know, like when I think about someone who doesn't eat, usually that tells me that like if I don't eat my food, it usually means I'm really stressed out, or I am otherwise concerned, or maybe I just had a bad home life. But again, it's another perspective into Ender's psyche that he doesn't really seem to fit in with most of the people around there. Most people would assumedly eat their food every meal because that's their sustenance. But anyway, I don't know why I took that as a point away. But the moment of farewell was very nice. I thought that was a good shareable moment. Probably one of the most positive moments we've had with Ender so far this book. I will say that his transition to Salamander was not smooth. He didn't really get along. I mean, Petra was great, kind of a guide there, but
Well, she was also kind of an outcast.
she was. And we've noticed that. He seems to fit in best with some of the outcasts.
Just like me in high school.
Yeah. It's true.
I wasn't a cool kid.
I was far from it.
Sorry,
All
sorry,
cool
Brian.
now, guys.
We keep interrupting your time.
No, you're good. I think, again, it was just... This was probably a little bit less of a climactic chapter. It's clearly a progression or a graduation from one grade to another. Like, it just feels like he graduated out of kindergarten and is now moving on to elementary school or something similar. But just growth of character. It was just a character building chapter.
So, yeah, I found it interesting that Bonzo basically is like, I was he the one that was like, I think that was Did he agree to take Ender because he wanted to show everybody that he didn't have just the best soldiers, or am I
No, I
No.
think that
mixed
was
up?
that's next chapter.
That's the next chapter.
Let's
Never
rose
mind.
the nose.
Never mind.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. Yeah, but he basically says, you're useless, you're worse than worthless.
Mhm.
And when we go to the battle simulations, wait 4 minutes, walk in, don't draw your weapon, don't fire your weapon, don't do anything. And what I thought was funny was because he did that, and he ended up at like the top of the rankings.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one, like, I think the last battle they had with the Salamanders, he actually did pull
Picked off
out
a few.
his gun, and he did turn defeat into a draw.
Mhm.
And I also thought it was pretty interesting that as he was watching everything unfold, it was very clear to him that Bonzo had zero strategic acumen.
Mm-hmm.
He was successful, but it wasn't because he was good at strategy.
Mhm.
So it was really... I think time and time again in this book, Card shows us how far above the pack Ender is.
Mm-hmm.
Like he picks up these games. He beat the Giants drink. He can look at this thing and he can say, "Oh well, you should be doing this, this, and this, and not this, and this is why this is happening." And holy crap, how did you get to be a commander? Type thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's all very interesting. And I think the interactions with Bonzo and Ender are also interesting as well as predictable.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's interesting how Bonzo deals with Ender, especially after Ender turns their defeat into a draw. How that is basically just serving to undermine his authority as the commander of that Salamander Army. So,
What's the age difference? Do we remember? I know that Ender's still 6, so I assume these kids are.
I don't even know.
I think
Did it
size-wise, they
say?
sounded.
They were much
sounded like
bigger.
Yeah, they were much bigger. So I didn't know if it was 8, if they were 10, maybe 12. I don't know how old they.
I kind of read
Or-
this as if they were like 9, 10.
Okay.
Because we
Sure.
met a 12-year-old before, and they made it sound like he was really old for battle school.
Yeah.
And so I figure this is somewhere in the middle between 6 and 12. So yeah,
I was just curious because I mean, some of the interactions between kids the same age seems very believable, and it's like, oh yeah, those are things kids would say. But now when we're kind of getting that more of a gap in the age range,
Sure.
I wasn't, I don't know if I picked up on it, or maybe we're just not supposed to know. It doesn't really matter to the story anyway.
Yeah,
we're seeing some interesting things with this school, though. I mean, essentially, what we're getting into is a lot of, and that we've seen this time and time again, where a lot of the problems with the world, or a lot of the problems with the world according to Ender's view, is present wherever he goes. You still have jealousy. You have people who are prideful that don't want to involve a lowly 6-year-old in their game. Just it seems very much like this school, which is supposedly the best of the best, is still struggling with being human and jerk-like tendencies.
Yep. One thing I wanted to talk about really was something in this epitaph.
Epigraph.
Yeah, that.
Yes.
Thanks.
No,
Yeah.
no one died.
Yeah.
No one died.
No. I'm graving it off.
So, but one of the things they say is, does it ever seem to you that these boys aren't children? I look at what they do, the way they talk, and they don't seem like little kids. And then the response is, they're the most brilliant children in the world, each in his own way. But shouldn't they still act like children? They aren't normal. They act like history, Napoleon and Wellington, Caesar and Brutus. We're trying to save the world, not heal the wounded heart. Basically, so it's really, you see these adults that are in charge of the school and that are in charge of this formation and this shaping of these.
They're manipulating the games for this outcome to produce some military genius.
The Kwisatz Haderach of battle school. But I mean,
now, if his name was Paul, that would have been fun.
Right.
That would have been a giveaway, right?
But it's kind of like, it's interesting to see that even though they're doing this, they're still conflicted about it. So.
And that's something that he's kind of done, or Card. I don't know why I keep going Cord, but he's kind of had this, both
Arson
sides of the
Scott
story.
Cord.
Or Arson. That'd be a weird name.
Yeah.
What's your name? Arson.
Or whoa.
But how Card kind of gives you both sides of things. So you've got Peter and Valentine. Now we've got Graf and the other kind of just have differing views. So it's kind of not necessarily saying one's right or one's wrong, but it's just kind of painting the whole picture and letting you fill in the rest.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about that last time too. That he does a good job of kind of giving you a framework, and you just kind of draw some conclusions. And it's good.
Do you ever wonder when we say something like when we talked about this last time, but people that have been watching and following along know that we have the same clothes on and that we probably recorded all these things in the same night? Do you think we're breaking the illusion?
Do we break the fourth wall?
I mean, I do sometimes repeat clothes from week to week, but sometimes I
Not
just
4 weeks in a
not
row.
not usually 4
Yeah.
weeks in a row.
We usually have a pretty standard rotation.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Something to think about.
Yeah. The
If you
more
notice
you
this,
know.
you're awesome. If you didn't, now you can't unsee it.
You're welcome.
Noticed what?
Yeah, so I don't know. I kind of like I kind of like how Ender finds ways to deal with the obstacles that are put in his path.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably a key tenet of the book, right?
Mhm.
How does he get from this kid on Earth to the Messiah? You need some more?
Maybe.
Okay. So, and I know Messiah is not the right word, right?
Mhm.
But so I think Card does a great job of making each one of these interactions different and interesting and memorable.
Well, and this is one of the first books that I can recall, and I know we talked about this for sure before we met, but there was a person who commented who did a great job of saying this, but Card does a really great job of making Ender smarter than not only the writer, but the reader as well.
Mm-hmm.
Where you can read this and have no clue where it's going, and Ender is somehow smart enough to be able to figure his way out of it.
So, yeah, that's a great point because, first of all, Spencer, welcome back. But what Spencer says is, I'd like to point out how Card approaches writing genius. He does write genius characters doing smart things, but most of the impressive moments are constructed in a special way. Instead of coming up with a challenge, then finding a genius response, Card builds Ender's responses to a certain scenario first, then constructs the scenario in such a way to hide that solution from the reader. Then Ender does it. It's a fantastic method and allows Card to write a character smarter than himself. That's great insight.
It
Mhm.
is. That's fantastic.
So, Spencer, if I had a gold star, you'd get a gold star. However, I don't, so you won't. I rhymed.
No.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was Chapter 7 entitled Salamander. Next week we will be... Wait, no, not next week.
Next time.
In a few
Next
days,
time.
we will be covering Chapter 8, which is entitled Rat, and I'm curious to see if we continue with the animal themes of our chapter names. Anyway, if you like the
Yes.
video, please hit the thumbs up below. That does help us get more views. We also would appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel and hit the bell notification so that when we post new content, you get a notification. And lastly, our comment section is wide open. That could be construed as dirty. But we invite you to use it, also construed as dirty. And we'll be sure to... You know what, I'm just going to stop. Leave a comment. We love you. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. And until then...